to oppress you in some way, right? And I said this question, which really was going to get me in trouble. I said, what does it do for you, students, to blame somebody? Does it help you? Because if that helps you, let's do it. Let's just blame people. And if it helps us all and we get better and we overcome something, I'm into it. Let's go. Let's blame lots of people. And then if tomorrow we're better off, we actually become more successful as people, let's do it.
The events of October 7 uncovered big problems in major universities in this country and shaken up a lot of Jews, myself including. A recent poll found that 73% of Jewish students experienced or witnessed anti-Semitic incidents since the beginning of this academic school year, a 22-fold increase over the year before. Jews are now considered by the anti-Semites on campuses as belonging totally to the category of white people and oppressors of Palestinian people, first of all, and who should be gotten rid of by any means necessary, and Jewish students are made into targets. That is at least my perception of it. To get better idea of what's going on college campuses, I have invited a executive director of 8 Hillels at CUNY and SUNY in New York, Ilya Bretman, to explain to us what's going on. And he's a good person to do it. He was born in the Soviet Union. He served in the American Army as a tankman. He is a linguist. He has PhD. He's a professor of English composition at Baruch and John Jay colleges. And he graduated from Jewish Theological Seminary. He is a kippah-wearing Jew. And amazingly, they made him executive director of Hillel. So, Ilya, welcome to Chicago Jewish Cafe.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's so great to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with your audience.
Well, thank you for stopping by. And the main reason I wanted to speak to you was exactly what I just said. What do you think is going on American campuses? It seems like incredible number of students and faculty, hiding under the variety of demands with regard to Israel, actually quite anti-Semitic. That's my perception. What do you think?
Right, absolutely, and thank you again. And I'm still working on my PhD at JTS, but I am in a very unique position, I'll tell you, in my role, not only as a Hill director, but because I teach, and I teach not a Jewish subject, I teach English to non-Jewish students. So I get to have a perspective from inside the classroom to speak directly with these young people. And I teach first year students, right? So we get to have them come directly from high school and hear what they think, how they think, what's going on in their minds. And what I've found out in the past, especially 3 months, is that our students are unfortunately and have been for years, not in the past 3 months, but for years, prepared, brainwashed, and warped to be able to feel, think, and act a certain way according to these beliefs. And this has been done intentionally and with a incredibly strategic way to really change this whole generation.
Wow.
And so we have a, I was thinking about this yesterday that there's such a generation called the lost generation. There's a generation before the boomers in the 30s and 20s who were kind of lost because of a variety of ideologies and issues and things that happened, the depression and other things in the United States. This generation, the Generation Z, we call it, is definitely a lost generation. I do not believe we can maybe change these people's minds because of how far deep in the rabbit hole they've gone. And these forces behind this nefarious strategy are really successful at warping and adjusting these people's minds. And that includes not just young people who are 18, 19, 20. This is as faculty members who are imbued and armed with this rhetoric, and then they're able to create credibility on and authority to discuss and to create a really movement for these young people to jump on. And this is a time of movements, as you've noticed, right? In the past 10 years, especially, we've had a variety of movements take over. And that includes the Me Too movement that went very quickly out, the Black Lives Matters movement, and now this movement that theoretically engaged a young audience to say, down with Israel or from the river to the sea, whatever this movement is called. And this movement is taking over the young people of today, and we see it very clearly on college campuses. College campuses will always be the playground for these kind of ideas because that's where academic freedom allows such disturbing views to flourish. And freedom of speech overall disallows our administration and our possibly even politicians and all kinds of folks who should be making changes to really act upon it. And we've seen it very clearly what has happened in Harvard, MIT, and University of Pennsylvania, and with those presidents who, even at the moment where it could have stood up for the Jewish people, and they could have said very clearly, without getting themselves in trouble, that genocide of the Jewish people is wrong and asking for it is wrong done. They couldn't even say that, which states something very clear to us that we as Jewish people in the United States at this time of our lives are no longer a safe one. But more importantly, we live in a society where the rational, reasonable thought, civility is no longer our value. And that's the most scariest place we could think about, where intelligent people, these are PhDs and scholars and well-read human beings who openly say that it is all about context and we need to think about what people are saying and how they're saying it. So I think overall we're definitely in trouble. I'm a born pessimist, happen to be from the former Soviet Union. We're all a bit of a pessimist, we always think on the dark side. And as a professor and as a Hill director, I have a very interesting opportunity. My opportunity is not to change the minds of thousands of hateful, brainwashed, confused, and uninformed young people. That's not my mission. I know I'm not going to be able to be successful in that, right? My mission is to strengthen the Jewish student on campus to make sure, one, they're able to be safe and comfortable and secure while they're on campus, and two, that they're able to persevere, overcome, not only that, battle, combat, come out of this stronger as a Jewish person, more connected to our Jewish identity, to the state of Israel, and to who they should be, the future of Jewishness and Jewish life in their lives. Marry Jewish and commit to being Jewish and be proud to be a Jew and be unafraid to wear the Star of David and the kippah and whatever they want on campus to represent themselves Jewishly. So it's an incredible mission. it is a blessing and a privilege. It's extremely difficult and stressful, but I think I'm blessed to be able to do it. So that's just an overall.
And were you successful in pursuit of this mission?
It's a one-on-one mission, right? So I'm on 10 campuses, like you said, and in Manhattan, we have thousands of Jewish students we're trying to engage. We have lots of issues.
Meaning there was a difference before that you observed before October 7 and after?
Absolutely. There's a bunch of differences, but one major thing is definitely there's an uptick, just like as there's an increase in anti-Semitism, there's an increase in Jewish involvement. Of course, Jewish students have woken up a bit over the past 3 months, and at certain campuses where our Jewish life was very weak and not robust. And today, the Hillel, the Jewish life, the engagement, the activities, the programs are packed with students eager to be part of a community because they see that their friends have turned against them and they are no longer either safe or comfortable to be who they are. I'll give you an example. We sent 40 Jewish students to volunteer in Israel today. Right now, they're on an army base in the south of Israel, volunteering for Israel. They're packing boxes, they're meeting with families, they're doing a variety of things for the soldiers that are going to Gaza today and tomorrow. And so they're there for this last 2 weeks doing this. Very few Hillels are doing this. We are one of very few in America, in the globe, who organized a trip, a large full bus trip to Israel to do this. And we're very proud of it, and we're very excited for our students to be there. They posted, the students, pictures of themselves on Instagram. Wonderful, fun pictures. Hey, we're here. They get to wear a uniform on the army base and to help. And they're just posting wonderful pictures of themselves, packing boxes, volunteering. Thousands of their fellow students, right? Their classmates posted on these pictures incredible hate, insane, disgusting hate, remarks and comments about these young people who are now terrorists and complicit in genocide and murderers of children and all the craziness that you've ever heard of, that all of that is there and uglier than you ever think. The reality is it's not about Israel. It's about Jew hate, right? I give you one more example. My friend posted himself, he has a baby, like a 1 year old, and they are standing by their door, and his 1 year old is kissing the mezuzah. Okay, very calm, nothing to do about anything. He just wanted to pick that video. His baby is kissing mezuzah. Oh, it's so nice. You would have comments, oh, so cute. Instead, there are thousands of comments of people who don't know him or his baby and the most egregious, disgusting comments about that baby is gonna grow up to be a murderer of Palestinians and all of that. And that's the mentality where we're at. People have become these extreme keyboard warriors, we call them, right? Who are there, who are unafraid in the shadows of their computer to spend that time. And then they're emboldened by our inaction to come to campus and to block yesterday they blocked the Brooklyn Bridge and the Williamsburg Bridge in Manhattan, and they stand there and like 300, these unfortunately disillusioned, misinformed young people were arrested trying to block these streets and bridges. And these people, they're destroyers. That's the bottom line. I was blessed to hear from Daniel Lubetsky, who said the war we're waging on campus is not against Israel versus Palestine or black versus white or Muslim versus Jewish. That's not the story here. The story is we, the Jewish people, Israel, the rational folks on campus, civilized academics, right? These folks are builders. We build relationships, we build communities, we build scholarship, we build relationships between people. And these people, they're destroyers. all they do is destroy. There is no purpose, right? From the river to the sea, they say, they want to destroy the Jewish people and the state of Israel. And it's very simple. They don't hide. We don't have to unravel and reveal their truths.
Ilya, but this is not simply younger Z generation. I mean, a
Yes,
few years ago at your college, CUNY, the union of staff and professors, did many similar things few years ago, way before the October 7th. I mean, the idea is just to hate Jews and kill Jews. And that's what your union, by the way, I published Judaic Scholar Digital Reference Library, and one of the professors, I'm not going to say who without his permission, uh, he is a subscriber personally, and he wanted to bring that library to CUNY.
hmm
And the reaction was from librarians and staff, we don't need no more Jewish books.
Absolutely.
So the anti-Semitism within CUNY, is widespread. There's what, 270,000 people there,
Students, yeah, 270,000 just students.
and
Biggest,
30,000 faculty and staff.
yes, absolutely. And the faculty and staff, and I'm very much part of the fight against the union over the last 2.5 years since their anti-Israel resolution in 2021 as a result of that small war against Gaza and Hamas at that time. And our union leadership today is filled with anti-Semites and self-righteous, signal virtuing, young and old folks who are unbelievably uh, biased, but more importantly, committed to their hate for the state of Israel and therefore for the Jewish people. And they're scarily stupid as well. That's the most important thing that we recognize at this time. These people are not proponents of some ideology that has the capacity to be discussed, right? We don't have a civil dialogue with these people that is possible, right? When you deal with irrational thought, there's no possibility to have a reasonable discussion with these people, right? We've tried, right? We last year, I'm part of a group of amazing faculty members called CAFI, CUNY Alliance for Inclusion. This group of mostly Jewish and some non-Jewish faculty at CUNY got together and we're battling these forces on our campuses for the last 2.5 years. Last year, we had this amazing panel of scholars at the Graduate Center at CUNY. And the scholars were talking about word crimes, how these forces have used language and how they've changed language to define, defeat, abuse, and accuse and insult Jewish students, Jewish faculty in the state of Israel. People came to this session, many, many sessions. People, it was great attendance. And a small group of people were sitting on the side waiting. They were all wearing masks and they were waiting. And at a certain point, they stood up with their flag. There's lots of videos of it. This went viral for a second. And they, with some end genocide or whatever flags that they had, and they screamed certain things. This was a year ago, before Gaza, before October 7th. And, they screamed all the weird things that they screamed. And then we said, stay, debate us, stay, get on the panel. These were faculty members at CUNY, right? And we knew who they were by name. And we said, please stay and debate. And they say, we don't talk to occupiers and oppressors. And they stormed out. That's who we're dealing with. There's mental illness involved. There is absolutely lack of civility. And the worst part, like you said, these folks, these faculty members, they come to the classroom and they spew this bias, misinformation, and anger and hate to their young, impressionable, gullible, uninformed, often uneducated young people, students, who then hear it and say, wow, that's credible, that's authoritative, that's ethos. That's something that's expertise. My professor told me that Israel has been killing children and raping women for the last 75 years as an oppressive apartheid state of settler colonialists since 1950s. What can I do? This is the truth.
Mhm.
And that's it. Once they do this, we lose because the credibility that these folks affirm in the classroom, they are able to really persuade a huge part of these young people to continue to jump on this bus and to drive it to these crazy places, right? So we are very frightened by what the situation is like. Who do we stop? How do we stop this runaway train of insanity and incivility, right? And most importantly, miseducation. Go ahead.
Do you see any allies, Jewish allies, that is, allies of Jews,
Yeah.
in your fight for to remain who you are and to be able to function within such anti-Semitic environment?
Very few allies. We do think about it all the time. We say we need allies, right? I went with bus loads of Jewish students to DC, to Washington, DC on November 16th, I think, when we had this amazing rally and for Israel, March for Israel, with 300,000 Jewish people. And it was wonderful. It was beautiful. And I said to myself, wow, when I go there, I better see allies. Who's going to come with us? Who's going to stand shoulder to shoulder with us to say, bring them home, right? And Hamas today, terror is never justified. Who's going to be there with me, right? And there was no one there with me. There were 300,000 amazing Jewish people, and I saw very few Christians, Muslims, and others who came to stand alongside with us. And that is the travesty of this whole situation. If we had the Christian people in America who stand so strongly for Israel, supposedly, right? Especially the evangelical Christians. If they stood up, 85 million evangelical Christians in this country, right? If they stood up, 10% of them, 10%, and they said, no, this is insane. We stand against terror, against rape and killing, and we stand with Israel, the only civilized democratic state in the Middle East, and we will always do so. If they did that, it's over. We completely changed the perspective, but they
But
do.
yeah, they do it. I mean, the evangelicals is the only segment of American population that I see clearly, that supports Israel.
100%. But do they? And they send a lot of money, but it needs to, and we need so much more than that. We need,
Well,
there,
yeah,
there
yeah,
is a,
to live in this country, there's a problem because they support, Israel, but there's many problems of with their support. I thank them for their support, but I see a lot of problems, because the end of it is two-thirds Jews dead, according to their vision.
right, their vision, the rapture, whatever, but we'll take their support for now and we'll figure out what
Right.
happens.
And when it comes, we'll talk about it
We'll talk with
if
about it.
we're alive. But in any case, other than evangelical Christians who are not that very much present, I guess at CUNY, who do you see there at CUNY among faculty and staff and among students who is on the side of Jews in Israel?
Right. So we always said the breakdown of American campuses was as follows before October 7th. 10% are with us. 10% are against us. 80% are nowhere. And therefore, we're going to work on the 80%. That was our mission, our vision, our status, our strategy. Every organization, every campus said this, right? That's not true. That's not true. 10% are with us. Absolutely. 10, 15% are against us. Loud, scary against us. 70% of students are confused, miseducated, uninformed, and lean not to be with us. That's the scary part.
Well, because they see that we're weak. They want to be, majority always wants to be with the strong party.
It's not about, I don't think it's about the level or the of strength in specifically. It's every Muslim student on campus today, right, who might not care at all about this, right? They have a choice. you're either pro-Hamas
Mhm.
or pro-Israel. And as a Muslim student, somebody comes to you and says, "Come on, man, right? You're against these terrible Jews, right? Who are killing young people and occupying our land over there, right? It's terrible what they're doing with the 25,000 people they just killed, mostly children. Isn't this crazy?" And what do you do as a Muslim person? You can't be like, wait, hold on. There's no, this is much more complicated than that, and they're da 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 da. No. They go, what? So you're with them? You're with the occupiers? You're with the oppressors, with the killing people? And the Muslim student has to say, okay, 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 I'm with you. And so that's the idea, right? And that's very difficult. And it's not just Muslim students, right? We at Hillel had hundreds of non-Jewish students as part of our Hillel, coming in, spending time, participating in programs, enjoying trips and everything else. In the past 3 months, they have felt very uncomfortable in our Hillel, and many have stopped coming. Why? One is they have pressure. They have pressure from their friends, and their friends say, "What are you doing hanging out with those Jews? What are you doing? That's not the place to be. Don't do it." And so they feel like, I can't, I have to leave you guys. They've said this to us straight in these words. They've said, "I'm sorry, I can't hang out with you anymore because my friends are, putting pressure on me, and they make me feel terrible. And they say I can't hang out with them, and I got to hang out with them." And so then we lost all these amazing, wonderful, great friends who have been with us for years, right? The big question is, I took uh, over 100 non-Jewish students to Israel over the past 6 years on this very special trip. There, we showed them unbiased, real truth. We took them to Ramallah and to Bethlehem and East Jerusalem. We met with many Palestinians, true, real Palestinians, not Palestinians who are on our side. Whatever. We met and we introduced. And my test was after October 7th, how many of these incredible students who saw it with their own eyes, right? Who
I mean,
spent two
incredible non-Jews.
non-Jews, all non-Jews.
Mhm.
How many of them said, came to me and said, "Ilya, like, how you doing? How's your family in Israel? I was there. I feel for you. I know what it's like. We were on the border with Gaza. I saw what's happening. I spoke to all of these people. I know exactly what's going on, and I feel for you." How many? Very few. We're talking about maybe 20%, which I'm lucky for, right? That these 20% did reach out and said, I'm with you.
And these are the people that already were predisposed before the trip to like Israel and Jews. And
Right.
only 20% afterwards ended up. So my question to you, Ilya, is what do you see as direction for Jews, faculty Jews and student Jews? Are we going to have now different universities, one for Jews, one for non-Jews, things like this?
I don't know. It's always also the bigger question is, what does a Jewish parent
Yeah.
decide today, right? So today, January, the Jewish parent has to make some decisions. Where am I sending my child next year? My child got in to ta 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 ta, right? And they might have gotten into Harvard and Penn and these wonderful Ivy League schools, and they have to choose like this is going to be a great education, maybe, and possibly a great door opening to their careers. True, possibly. But also, I will be opening them up and allowing them to be in this space that's filled with anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Am I cool with that, right? So it's very difficult. I have kids, and my son and I constantly talk about college, even though he's 11. But we think about college, and forever, we were thinking we live in Jersey, right? So Princeton was top choice, and MIT because he likes science, whatever, right? And in the past year,
MIT with the president who is nominally Jewish, but who is anti-Semitic.
right? So and she still has not resigned, right? But from that terrible congressional hearing. But the interesting part is that we, as a family now, started before October 7th saying only choice is Technion, right? We got to go to college in Israel, right? And he was committing to that, my son. I was already excited for that. And now our choice is very simple, right? All colleges. It's not about where I work, Baruch College or New School or FIT or CUNY or Harvard or Columbia or NYU. None of these schools, or University of Chicago or Urbana-Champaign or any of these schools, they all have these elements. They all have this brainwashing going on. They all have credible sources and scholars who benefit from this bias in the classroom. They all do. Every single college. Very few that you will go, wow, this place is amazing, right? It depends on leadership. There are few presidents who have stood up, very few, but a few presidents who've stood up and said, I will not stand for this. And we're kicking SJP off campus and we're stopping this type of rhetoric. And you can't do this on our campus. There are few that are able to do this, very few. There are few faculty and deans who stood up and said no more, right? But the majority have been silent or complicit. And so where do we make a choice as parents to send our kids, right? Is it Israel? I'm also for military academies. Personally, I think military academies, there's nothing going on like that in any military academy in America, right? None of that, right? And I appreciate that very much. There is a problem
Ilya, nothing like this going on at this moment,
this moment.
because things like this have a tendency to spread. And even if people don't talk and don't do anything, they think. Look,
Right.
look at this. The way I see it, this is the problem not simply in colleges, this problem in the whole America.
Right.
Golden Medina, the land of opportunity, the land of refuge for Jews. But we have to remember that for much of 20th century America, at least starting 1920s, 1918s, America had an intense problem with anti-Semitism during the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Then it went down. And then for the last 50 years, America was a great place for Jews. I mean, Hannah Arendt, when she came from Germany to the United States before the war, Second World War, she said that anti-Semitism in the United States was worse than in Nazi Germany. Can you imagine it?
Right.
The feeling of it. She said you could cut the air of anti-Semitism with a knife. And many people, so are we going back to that
Yes.
time?
I think we are possibly going back to that. I don't know if we can stop this runaway train, as I said, because it's coming with such speed and with such passion behind it from these folks. And it's not, they feel so righteous about doing this, right? They feel like I'm on the right path to free the oppressed, to fight against the power, to stand up to the power. And that's very sad. And these people who are strategizing and very smart about doing this, they know who they get, right? They're looking after other disenfranchised young people or old people who have felt, to be diminished in their roles in society, and they go after these folks. The greatest symbol or symptom is Queers for Palestine, this idea that LGBTQ community mostly stands with Palestine and at this moment with Hamas. And we always say to them, are you kidding me? Do you know what's going on? This is the most egregious place that you would not survive for 10 minutes, 10 seconds in Gaza as an LGBTQ person or in West Bank.
I
And
guess they want to experience a flight from the roof.
right, and that's when you show it to them, and it's the education of these people to uneducate and to change. It is so difficult. We have to, I do not know how to do it. My only hope is this, right? Just like with the lost generation, the generation after the lost generation was called the boomers, right? And they were amazing. They built America. They won the war, they think. World War II. They participated, they fought, they united, they fought for each other, and they built the most richest country ever in the history of humanity, right? That's what we say, right? And that what is it going to happen after this generation? Maybe we'll have a generation who will recover. We have other symptoms, other factors that have created this moment right now. It's not just hate for Jews and the anti-Semitism that's been boiling underneath the ground and finally is starting to come out. Corona, the lack of education for young people over the last decade, other movements that have moved these people in this direction, like BLM and others, right? All of these factors, right, connected us to this point, social media being the most important factor. And so that's where we are.
I agree with you, but I want to add another factor, and I
Yeah.
think that is the biggest factor of all,
Yeah.
and that is the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Okay.
Why?
Go ahead.
Because it opened the road for left wingers to start fantasizing again in a new way. Before that, they were tied to the Soviet Union. And for the right wingers, they lost the object of their hatred, of righteous hatred, and which I agree uh, was the righteous in a real sense hatred, because Soviet Union was a horrible state in more ways than one. But that collapse of the ideology of the right wing and the left wing opening the roads. In fact, when I used to write, for in these times on NPR, one of the main things that I tried to do is to bring the left wing in the United States to support the democratic movement, to support the dissidents in the Soviet Union. It was very difficult. They were very, very reluctant to open their mouth, practically none. But one of the arguments that I would give them is that after Soviet Union collapses, your road will be open wide to dream about new America. Little did they know that the dream of a new America in hands of these people is going to be a nightmare for our people.
It's very interesting, and I never thought about it in that specific frame, but I know that in what we are thinking about in our society, the news cycle, right? How Ukraine and Russia, right? We don't talk about it at all. No one cares, right? I live in New Jersey, and after Ukraine happened, right? Half of my neighborhood put up Ukrainian flags. If you ask them where Ukraine was or what was the capital of Ukraine, they would not know, right? But they put up a Ukrainian flag. How many will put up an Israeli flag? Nobody, right? I have an Israeli flag put up in my house outside. Thank God nobody has thrown a brick through my window yet. But no one will stand up for that. But they stood up for Ukraine, and that's the warpness of our country. I think that there's a great analogy in mashal, we say in Hebrew, right? Where our country is like the apples that we buy in our stores, right? The apples are extremely beautiful, bright, shining, like blinding apples, huge, delicious looking apples, right? And you say, wow, how's that possible, right? And the idea is that on the surface, it's incredible. It's bright and shiny and beautiful. But once you bite into it, it's the chemicals and the craziness and the rot of our society. That's what it is. On the surface, we're bright and shiny, but inside, there's so much rot in our society that is very difficult to fix. Our education system is completely disassociated from reality and from excellence that we could achieve. We do not invest correctly in many different fields, and our parenting and other issues is terrible. And the last thought is that how do we tell people what is going on and where our folks are getting their resources, right? With the students I teach, I always try to bring them credible sources, and I try to teach them what is credible sources. How do you trust a source? So I show them which sources I trust, sources that are peer reviewed, sources that are scholarly and where folks are more trusted. And they say all of that, students this semester, they said, All of that is BS. All of that is fake news. They brainwashing you. This is not to be trusted. And I said, where do you get your news? They said from Instagram, from TikTok. I said, really? That's credible? They said, yes, that's credible. It's from the ground. That's people on the ground. They see it. They tell you how it is. That's real news. I go, oh, there you go. Right. And that's our biggest issue. We've lost a sense of rational thought and reasoning, and people can't make an argument and can't support it with any evidence. TikTok is, when we have Osama bin Laden trending on TikTok as a new hero of the left, we have lost a moral compass and everything that could be driving our society to the future that me and you think could be. But there is hope for the next generation.
There's always hope. We read, Prophet Isaiah, and he's talking about, leopard lying with the lamb. And that is, to anybody, who thinks so-called rationally, this is just an absurd vision. By the way, in the article where I came across your name, the tablet,
Yes.
The article that is named "White People Are Going to Colonize Mars and Other Fears from Today's Campuses."
Right.
The article about you and about your experience, we're going to put a link to this article below this video.
Sure. Thank you.
I mean, one of the reasons that it attracted my attention is because basically the whole idea of the title is that there's a problem with whites being on Earth and whites being on Mars. I never thought about it, but now that this article brought it up, I think it's worth to think about it. So now, first of all, am I white? Yeah, my hair is white. My lips are not white. And what is white? Is it lowercase or capital W? What do you mean by white? And pale skin, not appropriate? Or whitish skin? What is white? I mean, and also the Mars. My dream is not Mars. My dream is much grander. My dream is Andromeda. Now, for most of my life, I was confused because when I was 8 years old, somebody, when I said I want to go to what is the star that is closest to Earth? And the guy behind me, I don't remember who he was, but he was like 4 or 5 years older than I was. He said Andromeda. So I say, how close is Andromeda? And I hear his voice, about 3 light years away. And I was thinking, 3 light years? That's doable. That is 8-year-old. Now, and I lived with this idea all my life. I mean, it affected many of my choices in life. And then a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I decided, let me take a look at this Andromeda. How far is it? And I see that Andromeda is not even a star. And it's not 3 light years away from Earth, but 3 million light years away. Now, I understand that many Jews like you see Israel as the point of congregation for all Jews. I say Israel is our land. It's the centerpiece. It's the thing that organizing all Jewish people around itself as Jews. But my dream is Andromeda.
Right.
Now, and what you are saying is that, yes, there's going to be people like in your school, in your class, that will say, let's get rid of this Alex. Let him go to Andromeda. But when he gets to Andromeda, he's going to be disturbing Andromedians. By being there, he's going to be a conqueror. He's going to be usurper of that land, like Europeans were in America. Like they say Jews are in Israel. That is despite the fact that, in my mind, the usurpers and interlopers in the land of Israel or land of Canaan or whatever else you want to call it are not Jews, but the Arabs who are residing there. So my question to you is, with thoughts like this, and I hope that many people will have similar thoughts. If not, I can live with it. What do you think is the future of Jews in the United States campuses, in American campuses, especially when now more than half, or almost more than half, of Jewish students hide their Jewish identity?
Right. And I think the title was based on a conversation that I had with students where the students were tasked to write an essay about space exploration, and some said that white people will move away and finally free up space for brown and black indigenous folks to move up in the class structure. So I think the idea of whiteness that is portrayed today more than maybe ever before is just privilege and power, right? And therefore, if one could remove privilege and power from this sect of people, then that privilege and power could be distributed to the rest. That's the ideology, right? That people have been forced to think. And that's the absurdity of the situation. Because what they've been taught, these young people, is that's the solution. The solution is to take the power finally away from the oppressor. And the oppressor is the white man. And now who's the worst oppressor of them all? The Jew, the white Jew. Why? Because they have used their privilege and used that position of power to get ahead and to place themselves in such a position that now they control or contribute or whatever they do with all of the senses of society. And most importantly, possibly, that they actually drive change, that they make us all believe something. They control our minds, and we need to free our minds from these powerful, as we said, interlopers. And that's a societal norm that's been placed, embedded in these young people. And that's why when I think about, there's no escape to us, for the the white people, whatever that is. You're not going to Mars or Andromeda. There's no escape. It's all insanity, right? And so when we talk about this kind of approach, why it's so absurd and so scary, because it's not a joke, right? If these students said, ah, ha, 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 white people are going to go to Mars, ha, ha. And it was like, we all laughed and moved on. No, no, they believe it. And when the other students said, no, no, we shouldn't go to Mars because we will occupy and abuse the indigenous Martians, that elevated the insanity of the absurdity, right? And so then when you recognize that person said that also not laughing, also feeling that that's a reality, then we're really in trouble. One student of mine said to me, I am, I'm being held against my will in this country. I said, oh my God, who's holding you against your will? Oh my God, what's going on here? And I said, where are you from? And she said, Haiti. I said, wow, okay. I said, where were you born? Queens. I said, great. Have you ever been to Haiti? No. I said, do you know about Haiti? Do you want to go back to Haiti? And like it's very difficult place right now, right? And I said to her, like, who's holding you against your will? And in the class, I said, guys, hold on, please, let's help this young lady out because somebody's holding her against the will. Oh my God, right? I made a whole
That is
scene.
the reaction of the class?
That's the reaction I made in the class, right? So to make it like a funny thing, because I wanted to people around to recognize how absurd that statement was, while she's being given every opportunity to be to have this education, very, very affordable education, to have an opportunity to grow and to be someone who becomes somebody extraordinary, maybe. All equitable access is possible in this country, in New York, in her university. Everything is possible, but instead, what we tend to do, and much more now than ever, is we victimize ourselves, right? Not me and you, maybe, but hopefully, but these young people, and that's what happened. And I had a conversation this semester with a group of students, and I
What did
said,
she answer to when you said, nobody's holding you, you can go back to Haiti?
right, and she didn't, she was lost in the, and she couldn't respond because obviously it's so absurd, and
But
she
why did
didn't.
she feel that way?
It's a fight for something, right? I don't belong. There's a lot of difficulty right now for young people to feel, where am I? And so
But she was born here in New York.
in New
So
York,
what was the problem?
the problem is she's unhappy, and now we have to blame somebody. Who is somebody? The white man, or whatever that means,
Why
right?
not black men?
Because they are also oppressed.
I mean, her parents left Haiti because of black men, not because of white men.
So the issue is not even who has oppressed them. It's who is oppressing them now, right? And right now the feeling is I cannot succeed because someone else is succeeding or has created a system that is built to enslave me. That's what a student told me this semester, right? And I said, I teach in these colleges where, the pay for professors is very small. I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for kind of some kind of privilege, right? I'm doing it because I feel like I'm going to make a difference. And I said to her, Listen, like, do you think I'm oppressing you? Am I in some way uh, abusing you? Am I like to this other student? And I was like, hey, I'm a white guy here. And it happened to be, I was in a room with very few white people. And I said, like, am I somehow doing this? Do you think I'm in this college to oppress you in some way, right? And I said this question, which really was going to get me in trouble. I said, what does it do for you, students, to blame somebody? Does it help you? Because if that helps you, let's do it. Let's just blame people. And if it helps us all and we get better and we overcome something, I'm into it. Let's go. Let's blame lots of people. And then if tomorrow we're better off, we actually become more successful as people, let's do it. And they were, no, 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 we're not blaming. We're just making people aware of
Or
your
what?
being a victim of this abuse and oppression. And I said, but that doesn't help you, and you can't. That blaming, that victimhood, is actually the real thing that enslaves I'm using their language, these young people, right? Because what it does is it completely handcuffs them. They're unable to then do what they need to do, what they want to do to be successful, because they say, what do you want me to do? How can I be successful if I am oppressed and enslaved and by these other forces?
Ilya, we have only a few minutes left. Want to ask you a question.
Absolutely.
What is your vision? I mean, so you say emphasizing, getting Jews together, getting emphasizing, our identity as Jews and holding ourselves, bringing ourselves together. Is this the only thing? This is the way, and what is going to be the result?
Absolutely. There are many, many approaches and strategies that we must do simultaneously, as we always do. One is the strengthening of the Jewish identity and building up the Jewish self. So every student needs to be connected to whatever that means for them to be Jewish. That means tradition, and that means holidays and life and Jewish life and the history and practice, and very importantly, the state of Israel and the Hebrew language and who we are. So that's very number one priority. We must invest a lot into that. That's one. Two is we need to combat 100%. We need to go after the perpetrators of hate, however much we can at this time, while we still have the legal platform that exists that actually allows us to do that. So we need to use all the legal frameworks that we have, lawsuits in Title IX and Title VI on all our campuses to go after all the perpetrators, all the haters. We need to showcase them. We need to shun them. We need to, make sure the world knows who the perpetrators are. We need to go after the complacent, complicit, lazy, incompetent presidents and administrators on the campuses across the United States who must do better. Yes, we need to go after the faculty who spew hate and bias in the classroom. We have to go after the students who intimidate, harass, and create a hostile environment for our students on our campuses. All of that we must do 100%. And therefore, that's a combating. We must define anti-Semitism strongly and unapologetically across our campuses. We must define that anti-Semitism is anti-Zionism. It's one thing, not to be confused as anything else. So all of that is part of education, and as much as we can, we need to do that. We need to stand up. We do need to find allies, and we need to find the strong of allies and build those relationships. We need to do that with folks that we never thought would be our, sleeping fellows, like Saudi Arabia and others, right? We need to do all of those things. We need to be smarter, more strategic. We need to strengthen the state of Israel militarily, strategically, and in every other way. And so we can do all of that as Jewish people. But most importantly, what I say to our students, be excellent at what you do, right? Don't worry about the protests and the screaming and all of that stuff, right? Be excellent. Become amazing lawyers and scientists and educators and financiers and bankers and doctors, right? Do that today, right? Go and study and be amazing. And then you will always elevate yourself in society to be the leaders, the scholars, the experts that will always be there either way. And in that world, you will run the world. Yes. And that's how it's going to be. And so we need to continue to do that, strengthen ourselves, our minds, our Jewish identity, and be able to fight on till to live and thrive another day.
I agree with you fully. I just want to add another thing. In any conversation with these people, with anti-Semites, of which there's a lot, never apologize. Never.
Definitely.
Assert your righteousness, assert your Jewishness. Never apologize, because they are liars and just simply labeling, throwing labels at Jewish people has been long 1,000-year-old tradition for them. In any case, as they say in China, Ilya, sei gesund and the very best, and hope to talk to you again, because I think the story continues.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Alex. And I hope to educate and I was able to reveal something for your audience. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You did.